On the March 9th, 2022 edition of AEW's Dynamite, Jeff Hardy made his shocking debut in AEW while saving his brother Matt Hardy from the AHFO. But right before Jeff saved Matt, he absolutely had to let out his iconic classic dance move while Matt was getting beaten the hell up.
Jeff, I need your help quickly, please come and save me.
I'm gonna save you soon, Jeff.
The Hardy Boyz reuniting in AEW is just so awesome to see because they are one of the greatest tag teams of all time. The Hardy Boyz are 12-time tag team champs, having held the tag team belts in WCW, WWE on several different occasions, TNA, and in ROH. Not only are the Hardy Boyz one of the most decorated tag teams of the last 20 plus years, but they also have had a huge influence on wrestling. The Hardy Boyz are pioneers of how modern wrestling is today. In the Hardy Boyz, Matt was the brains behind the group and Jeff Hardy was the charisma behind the group. And between them, they created a perfect dichotomy that fans were so attracted and allured to. Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy separated themselves from everybody else with their unique, youthful look and their high-risk wrestling style. The Young Bucks have even gone on record to say that the Hardy Boyz were their favorite tag team growing up, and the Hardy Boyz influenced them to become wrestlers. Looking at how the Young Bucks have turned out is testament to how much of an influence the Hardy Boyz have had on wrestling, as the Young Bucks are now the leaders of a wrestling renaissance. The Hardy Boyz are also innovators of the TLC match and the ladder match, with their classic encounters with Edge and Christian and the Dudley Boyz. The Hardy Boyz laid out the blueprint that so many wrestlers today use in their matches, and because of that, they will go down in the history books of wrestling. The Hardy Boyz have also had a big influence on pop culture in general, especially Jeff Hardy, as the Jeff Hardy memes are absolutely hilarious. I know for a fact you've done the Jeff Hardy classic air hump dance at least once in your life. Jeff Hardy is a living legend and is one of the most beloved wrestlers of the modern era. Jeff Hardy is one of those wrestlers that are just impossible to hate, as he's so cool in every sense of the word. Sure, he's had his troubles with substance abuse in the past, but that has never made him any less of a fan favorite. Jeff Hardy's WWE career has been filled with incredibly high highs and really low lows, but throughout it all, the fans have always had his back. He's one of the few wrestlers that fans genuinely care about. Literally everybody's rooting for Jeff Hardy. During the tail end of Jeff Hardy's run in WWE, his brother Matt had been released from WWE and hired by AEW. But on the flip side in WWE, Jeff Hardy was playing the role of putting over younger talent, so a lot of the time he took a lot of losses. While there's nothing wrong with older talent putting over younger talent, the way that WWE made Jeff Hardy do this was very disappointing at times. At one point, Jeff Hardy was even chasing after the 24/7 championship. Who in their right mind thought that it would be a good idea for a former WWE champion and world champion to chase after the 24/7 championship along with jobbers? Oh yeah, I forgot. It was the idea of an old and out of touch Vincent Kennedy McMahon. What a shocker. Jeff Hardy 100% could have been utilized in a much better fashion. Nonetheless, Jeff Hardy pressed on, but something weird happened at a house show in December of 2021. In a 6-man tag that Jeff Hardy was a part of, towards the end of the match, Jeff Hardy rolled out the ring, jumped over the barricade, walked backstage through the crowd, and left the rest of the guys in the ring to finish the match. This was very weird to say the least, so naturally fans on the internet just assumed that Jeff Hardy had relapsed and was struggling with substance abuse once again, because Jeff has had an extensive history with drug abuse. Even WWE thought that Jeff was abusing substances again. WWE then ordered Jeff to go to rehab for 28 days in order for him to save his job. But Jeff said no, just like Amy Winehouse. So because of this, WWE released him. What makes the situation that much more worse is that test results revealed that Jeff was not intoxicated or under the influence of any drugs at the time of this incident occurring. So basically Jeff Hardy had another problem that no one knew about, but everybody, including WWE, concluded that Jeff was abusing substances again. And this ultimately cost him his job, even though it was the wrong assumption. Naturally, right after Jeff got released, people immediately started assuming that he would join AEW like every other wrestler that got got released from WWE. While a lot of the time, these people on the internet are wrong, this time the people on the internet were absolutely correct. If Buddy Matthews is wrestling's best kept secret, then Jeff Hardy to AEW must be wrestling's worst kept secret. Because not too long after he was released from WWE, Jeff Hardy linked up with Matt Hardy and they started to film promotional videos that promised the return of the Hardy Boyz. And with Matt Hardy being in AEW already, it was a no-brainer that it was only a matter of time till Jeff was all elite. What made Jeff to AEW even more obvious is that Jeff himself literally confirmed in an interview on YouTube that he's going to go to AEW and he's super excited. Afterwards, in another interview, Jeff tried to play this off and go back on his words by saying nothing's official yet. I'm still legally under contract with WWE. But by that point, it was already too late. Everybody and their mother knew that Jeff Hardy was headed to AEW. This must have been great news, especially for his brother Matt, because Matt has not really hit his stride in AEW. Matt unfortunately debuted in AEW right when the pandemic first started, so he was at a disadvantage from day one. His broken gimmick was pure gold in Impact Wrestling, but WWE didn't give him a platform to truly express his broken brilliance. So every wrestling fan was ecstatic to see Matt Hardy's brokenness in AEW. But with no crowds, Matt's broken gimmick came off as awkward, cartoonish, and sometimes even cringe. Matt saw that this broken character wasn't working with no crowds, so he decided to transition into Big Money Matt, which is a snobbish, suit-wearing, money-loving prick that brags about all of his achievements. While this gimmick is not inherently bad, we've just seen it way too many times in wrestling before, so it's kind of overplayed. Matt has also been involved in some truly cursed feuds. Some of them have been all around bad and overstretched. His faction, the Hardy Family Office, has also been a bit bloated at times, as there's just been too many people in the group. Like, this must be the most random collection of individuals I've seen in my entire life. And somehow Andrade El Idolo came into the fray and joined the faction, and made it a conglomerate called the Andrade Hardy Family Office. Matt Hardy's also obviously aging, so he's lost a step in the ring, and between that and his not so great booking, he has really been struggling to stay relevant in AEW. Even Matt's AHFO was falling apart, as when Limitless Keith Lee debuted in AEW, he went up against Matt Hardy's student, Isaiah Cassidy, and absolutely decimated him. Halfway through the match, Matt Hardy even recreated his brother's exit from WWE by hopping over the barricade and exiting through the crowd because he was so embarrassed of Isaiah Cassidy's performance. Between all of this, it's safe to say that Matt Hardy has had a terrible run of luck in AEW. That was until the March 9 edition of AEW Dynamite. That was one day after Jeff Hardy's 90-day no-compete clause was up. On this episode of Dynamite, the AHFO turned on Matt Hardy. Then Sting and Darby came out for the save, but they also ended up getting the beats from the AHFO. But then in a twist of fate, the Hardy Boyz' original WWE theme song, Loaded, hit to a massive pop, and Jeff came out half sprinting, half dancing down to the ring for the save. It's actually crazy how Jeff Hardy arrived in AEW earlier than Veer Mahan on Monday Night Raw. I wouldn't be surprised if Veer arrived on AEW before Monday Night Raw. But anyway, Jeff Hardy then proceeded to lay everybody out, and he hit an epic swanton bomb on the Blade. Afterwards, Matt Hardy gave him a gigantic hug, and you could see how much this moment meant to both men. Matt Hardy looked like he was about to cry while holding his little brother in his arms once again. Jeff couldn't contain his happiness as he was literally smiling from ear to ear in the embrace of his older brother. After this, Matt Hardy even said on Twitter that the emotion was real and that they need each other more than people understand. Clearly, Matt and Jeff love each other dearly and are genuinely happy to be reunited once again. This moment was so important for both of these men because they always have expressed in interviews that they would like to finish off their careers the same way they started it, as a tag team. And what better time and place to do just that than right now in 2022 in AEW, which is arguably the hottest wrestling promotion in the world today. The Hardy Boyz reunion in AEW is an opportunity for both men to revitalize their careers and cement their names in the history books even further. After Jeff and Matt's touching hug in the middle of the ring, Darby Allin and Sting were standing across them. A match between these two teams would be awesome. And as the two teams stared down, Darby Allin had an uncharacteristic starstruck look on his face the whole time. Darby Allin is usually very stoic, but you could tell in this moment that he was trying to hold it all together and was marking out on the inside over Jeff Hardy. Darby is clearly inspired by Jeff Hardy, all the way from his risky wrestling style to his face paint. So Darby must have felt that it was surreal to be standing across from Jeff Hardy in the middle of the ring. If Jeff Hardy were to go on a singles run as Will-O-the-Wisp, then him versus Darby Allin would be a matchup that would rake in a lot of money. Not many people noticed this, but Jeff Hardy signaled a thank you gesture to Sting. This could most likely be a reference to the time around when Sting and Jeff met in the ring at TNA's Victory Road pay-per-view in 2011, where Jeff Hardy notoriously came down to the ring clearly inebriated and was subsequently released from TNA. Sting, who has his own story of addiction and triumph, could have helped Jeff Hardy to get back on the straight path and helped him to get his job back a couple months later. This is all up for debate though, but Jeff thanking Sting on such a momentous occasion like his AEW debut means that Sting must have helped him a bunch back in the day. It's very exciting to see where all of this goes. One thing's for certain though, when Jeff Hardy and CM Punk met up backstage after the show, it must have been pretty awkward considering they had a feud in WWE where CM Punk continuously mocked Jeff Hardy for his real life addiction problems. Yikes!
What's up?
Thank you for watching the video. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. But anyway, goodbye you jobbers.